What is going on a Friday night? Bills Mafia, Lance Nelson, president of Built in Buffalo, to my left, Scott Casson, and to my right is Peter DiBiasi, now of NBC Sports Network. Peter, welcome back to a show on Built in Buffalo Network. We have missed you. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah, I haven't been. What has it been? A month and a half since we probably did right after the draft. We did our last show, Lance.
Right.
No one's asked me back in Built in Buffalo, so thank you, Built in Buffalo. Really appreciate that. No, I'm joking, but no, I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys having me on. I like I texted you, Lance. Haven't talked Bills really in a while, so I'm excited. I know it's the off season, but I'm excited to get into some conversation.
Yeah, right on. And how's your Friday going today, Scott?
Going great. We had a big sports weekend, kind of a sneaky big June sports weekend. We got the U.S. Open in golf, got the College World Series getting underway this afternoon, NBA Finals maybe getting wrapped up tonight, Stanley Cup maybe getting wrapped up tomorrow. So it's been great. Excited to talk some Bills. We got some kind of actual football to talk about with some mini camp. But yeah, I'm excited to talk some Bills with the boys and get this thing started.
And to start off, we are going to talk about special teams. So the first topic I wanted to talk about is the reports and things of Tyler Bass. First of all, there was a report that he made a 70-yard field goal with Jack Browning holding. So we'll get to that in a second. But he missed a couple easy ones inside of 45 yards. And look, I'm going to say this later on when we talk about another offensive player. It's June. Get those mistakes out now, and let's be ready to roll when September comes around. But if you can't do these things in shorts and a T-shirt, I don't know. Missing that kick at the end of the season in the playoffs and now having some trouble here in minicamp too. Look, is there a reason that the Bills should, look at other kickers?
Yeah, it is really early, and Bass last year was really questionable. He had his worst season as a pro, I would say. That kick in the playoffs was definitely tough, and I am particularly scarred from it because from my seats at that game, we were on the 50-yard line, and my friend Brian, who I'm sure he's watching, so he won't appreciate me making fun of him, but he thought the kick went in, and he yelled, "It's good!" And then it missed the net, so it just made it kind of like 10 times worse because everybody else knew it missed. So, yeah, his struggles, I definitely don't enjoy that. Would like to hear that he was money from everywhere, even at this point of the year. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button yet, but if we go a couple weeks into camp and he's still not knocking in his kicks, it might be time to bring someone else in as competition. I mean, there's a lot of good kickers out there. I know we just re-signed him. I don't know exactly off the top of my head what his dead cap looks like if we were to move on. But, yeah, I mean, I don't love that he's not making kicks in June, but probably not time to hit the panic button just yet.
What are your thoughts, Peter?
Yeah, like it's June, and it's obviously very early in the offseason, but I feel like kicking or special teams is one, or punting in general is one of the things that he should be doing year round. I don't think it really matters when it is because there's no chemistry really. There's no working on routes. There's no you don't need a defense. You don't need an offense, right? Like it's kind of you, the ball, the holder, and the snapper, and obviously the field goal post. But yeah, they signed him to an extension. You mentioned dead cap, Scott, post 6-1 release, so now currently would be a $4.3 million 2024 dead cap, and then in 2025
he's in the top 10 salaries on the team.
It would be for 2025 dead cap would be $3 million if they decided to move. So you're gonna have $7 million of dead cap broken up over 2 years. I don't think they move off of him, right? Like he's under contract through the 2027 season. The next time he'll be a free agent will be 2028. They're probably not moving off of him. They really can't. I guess next year you could with the $3 million dead cap, but if he's good again, if he's good this year, then you won't. I would like for them to bring in probably competition, right? I think you always should have competition at certain positions, and I think kicker and I think punter is probably the two positions you definitely should have competition in at. But I know Bills fans on Twitter, and I know everybody on Twitter gets a little paranoid with, especially how his season ended. Like you said, he wasn't great in this past season. He was good, but he wasn't great. He wasn't as consistent. I would be shocked if he's not your day one kicker. I would be really shocked. But something to keep in mind, that dead cap is not great. It's not anything terrible. They probably don't want to have $4 million in dead cap. And then maybe next year they would have to move off of him. But at that point, then you're like, well, can you go into a year when you Super Bowl aspirations with a kicker that, well, we'll wait a year and then we'll move off of him at that position? I don't think that's a great idea, but I don't think he goes anywhere.
I am slightly biased for Tyler Bass because one time at the Atlanta airport, Tyler Bass's uncle bought all my drinks. So I'll be a fan of his until he isn't our kicker anymore. But yeah,
shout out to Uncle Bass.
That's right. If he continues this stretch, definitely doesn't make me feel confident in him making big kicks next season.
Yeah, and this makes up a good point here, and I'm going to pull up the banner and then I'll bring up the comment, is could be Sam Martin and Holding. I have a soft spot for Tyler Bass because I like to call him Sunshine, just like Ronnie Bass from Remember the Titans. So just as fun for him to be on the team brings a smile to my face in that realm, just linking it to the movie. But Sam Martin and Holding, is there a possibility that Jack Browning could be the runner heading into 2024-25 season? Any thoughts, Peter?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think Sam Martin was that was a really loud yeah. I just realized that.
He's fired up, folks. He's ready to talk Bills.
I'm not used to not hosting.
Punters.
Yeah, I love punters, and I'm not used to not hosting. It's usually for me and Lance the other way around, so it's throwing me for a loop. But look, I think you guys would agree with this. I don't think Sam Martin was anything special last year punting, like at all. And if Jack Browning, one, can come in and show that he's a legit punter, right? That's obviously the first part. And then the second part is Holding. Then, yeah, you move off Sam Martin, not even think about it. I think I don't know if that's the plan, but that's definitely a legit possibility. Just because Sam Martin was so inconsistent. And and especially in Buffalo, as the temperature gets colder, as it gets windy, you need to be able to punt, and you need to be able to be a legit punter. And we saw, especially Sam Martin wasn't the best holder. And I love how that's an issue for Tyler Bass. Like it's a crazy thing. Like Sam Martin, that I don't know any experience about special teams. That's not my thing. Is Sam Martin that bad of a holder that it has that of much of an impact? I don't know, but
how can you be that bad of a holder though? Like what
I'm saying
I get like everything in the NFL is definitely like there's such a finite line of being good and great and bad, and everything is just a thin margin of error. But it's like you literally are just catching the ball and like you gotta put
making sure the laces aren't out. That's it. Make sure the laces aren't out and make sure you have a secure hold.
We've all seen Ventura.
If you do it for a year, like you should get good. Like it shouldn't take you long to refine that skill, I feel like. But I don't know. Him and Bass just maybe not on the same page. I really don't know. And obviously, like I said, it is June, so we do have to pump the brakes on any sort of like roster implications for Bass for sure. But I mean, it could
not for Sam Martin
have meaning for Sam Martin, I think.
No, yeah. One more thing. I think dead cap for Sam Martin, I'm reading right now, $400K. No, post June 1st.
Oh, okay. I saw 2.4, but I wasn't reading that.
Yeah, you have to click the little scissor button.
See.
Cap hit is $2 million. Dead cap is $800,000. You click the scissor button on Spot Track, and it says post June 1st release, 2024 dead cap $400,000. There would be dead cap in 25 though, and then it at $400,000 as well. So. Sorry, Scott.
Yeah, I think our punters should be, hopefully anyway, better known as holders than punters going into the season, because that means we don't punt a lot. So, yeah, could Browning beat Sam Martin? Absolutely. I think as far as returning starters go, Sam Martin probably has the least stranglehold on a starting position because it's the punter. It changes every year, and Browning's probably cheaper even with the dead cap because he'll be on a rookie deal. So. I absolutely think that he could beat out Sam Martin, and a lot of it honestly probably does depend on what Tyler Bass likes as a hold because Points are a lot more important than punts, so hopefully we don't see a whole lot of punts, especially in this offense. So, I think Browning very well could beat out Sam Martin, and I don't think anybody would be really surprised either way.
Right on. Yeah, we spent about 10 minutes or so now talking about special teams, and I feel like it's fair due. And I'm ready to talk about Josh Allen and this offense, and I hope you guys are too. Stay coming into the comments. We're still getting a lot of comments here, and I appreciate that so far. If you can, hit the like and share button and get the viewership up in here, get the algorithm in our favor here on at least on YouTube and Facebook. If you're on X, come on over to YouTube or Facebook so you can jump on in the comments and we can interact with you. Appreciate that. Josh
You
Allen.
forgot something, Lance. If you missed this episode, you can always rewind and watch whenever you want. Come on, man.
Audio podcast will be out on Spotify and many other formats wherever you get your podcasts. Gotcha. Training here from Peter DiBiasi. Josh Allen has altered his throwing motion, or is tweaking his throwing motion per his press conference. He had a little sleeve on there. A lot of people noticed and asked about it, I believe, on social media. Does it give you any nerves? He likened it to changing or tweaking a golf swing and getting comfortable with it. I think given that it is June, he's going to have plenty of time to get comfortable with it. But, he's always tinkering every offseason, I feel like. So it's not like if it's broke, don't fix it kind of mentality. He's always kind of fixing something. And he said there's always little things to improve here and there, and that would improve the strength of his throws, his arm durability, and how long his arm lasts in the season. We know with his running ability, he is going to probably lower that shoulder a bit from time to time, and that could affect things as well. But what are your thoughts on just the technology being used and all of that? I thought it was pretty wild to see, that they could map all that stuff and have the sleeve on with the sensors and whatnot to get all that data. This team is very analytically driven. They do a lot of cool things with technology and analytics. So just give some thoughts on overall, the fact that he's tweaking some things. I think it's not different than any other offseason for him, but also, the use of the technology and kind of your general thoughts on Allen and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like it a lot. What it reminded me of when he was describing the sleeve was when you see guys go in and do like their movements for video games when they wear all like the little like dot suits is kind of what it reminded me of.
Right.
But no, I like it a lot. Like you can always get better. Obviously, Josh Allen, a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, but he's not getting complacent. He's trying to find ways to be more efficient, get the ball out quicker. He's one of those guys who can just flick his wrists and the ball goes 50 yards, which is incredible. But if he can be more mechanical and more efficient, it's only going to help him, especially looking at how much he's increased his accuracy from college at Wyoming, from his rookie year with the Bills, and into now being a 66 to 68 completion percentage type quarterback, which no one thought that he would be. I think it's a great thing that he's kind of a lifelong learner, so to say, of trying to get better. I know he's always working with Jesse Palmer as well in the offseason trying to get better. So I think it's great and shows that, our guy is out there not getting complacent. It doesn't really worry me at all as far as his mechanics go week 1, because he's going to throw thousands of balls this offseason to get that muscle memory burnt into his body. But no, I think it's awesome, and I'm excited. Even if it helps him by 0.5%, that could be what it takes for us to beat a team like the Chiefs. So I'm excited to see what it looks like this year.
Yeah, no, I trust whoever, if it's Josh, if it's Joe Brady, if it's McDermott, if it's Jordan Palmer, whoever his quarterback coach is, right? Like whoever went in the decision of making or changing kind of the throwing motion or tweaking it. I wouldn't say fully changing it, but probably tweaking it a little bit. I trust everybody that made that decision, right? I think it's a good thing, right? Like he struggles still at times with some accuracy, right? Like in week to week, there's some games where he just doesn't have it. And I think he's trying to avoid that. And I think it happened a couple more times than we probably wanted last year or expected, especially earlier in the year. We go back maybe the Giants game or the Denver game or the Jets game week 1. Stuff like those games where he just didn't have it, I think is important. And I think he also realizes this offense revolves, and Joe Brady's offense revolves a lot around the short passing, right? And short passing, not all about power. It's about where you put the ball and if you're accurate at a timely fashion. Because you have a lot of guys that are more yak guys than we've had in the past, which I think is a good thing. And I think it's going to help this offense, Shakir, especially Curtis Samuel and all that kind of stuff. But I think it takes more of fine-tuning the accuracy for Josh. And I think Joe Brady's system needs a little bit more of an accurate quarterback. I think Josh is doing that to become more of an accurate quarterback. We don't have maybe we weren't super long ball, but like Diggs wasn't really a short receiver, short yardage receiver. He's kind of an everything receiver. Obviously, Gabe Davis was definitely not a short yardage receiver. This offense is really revolved around a little bit more of that, especially with the tight ends and with Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir. I think this probably needs a little bit more. I think it leads towards more of fine-tuning the accuracy and just becoming more consistent week in and week out, which at times he wasn't last year. We obviously saw Josh Allen be great, but we also saw some lows of Josh Allen. I think if you can get rid of those lows, you go from a 10-11 win team to 13-14 win team, and especially when it comes to the playoffs, even though obviously the Chiefs game wasn't really his fault.
Yeah, I don't know that really besides the Bengals game that any playoff loss was his fault necessarily. I think he left the field. Left his team in good position each and
Not
every
if
time
you asked him,
field.
he probably would tell you I probably should have scored more points or I probably should have made this pass, but that's just obviously like the competitor he is.
Yeah, and I think, Ronald Curry is the quarterback's coach for the Bills, and we'll see, what kind of new and ideas or what kind of advice and guidance he can give Josh, and see what the that motion, maybe he has something he sees in Josh's throwing motion as well that's kind of new that he hasn't gotten from Palmer or the guys he works with every year. So I need more. I think that's a lot. We all said a lot on Allen, and I think that's pretty much it. But
it's tough to talk about something you don't really fully know and fully like understand, just because we're not in that room talking about him tweaking his throwing motion, and none of us
have ever been a quarterback, so
former quarterbacks.
I'm playing quarterback tomorrow in flag football, so if you need any questions,
let me know if you tweak your throwing motion and see how that goes.
I have, because I'm a baseball player, so I try it. I think every time I throw the football, it's different. So
that's maybe Josh is trying to avoid that.
I hope so.
Consistency. Another thing that this is what I was kind of foreshadowing earlier, is James Cook kind of dropping some footballs during the practice here this week, and he drops too many in certain situations for me. I think as a whole, he has something like, ninth worst, or, whatever you want to say, the ninth highest drop percentage out of running backs. And it's not like he drops every ball. It's just he drops some major ones in the moments he drops them. And I mentioned on another show earlier this offseason about his fumbles as well. And it's not necessarily that he fumbles all the time, and it's not necessarily that he drops footballs all the time. But if he's going to drop balls, drop it in June, and maybe that's going to motivate him to get better. Because what I wanted to say during this segment was I think he has another level to get to. I heard guys on WGR and I heard guys on other things talking about James Cook not being able to go to another level, and that what we got from him last season is about what he's going to be in the NFL. And I really disagree with that. I think there's another level for James Cook to get to. So what do you think about that? I mean, if you want to give your thoughts on the drops as well, but what do you think about James Cook and how he can progress in this offense? And we'll start with Peter within this Bills, because if he does, have some difficulty this year, and Ray Davis can come in and have some success, it's almost like, I don't know, I could see Ray Davis coming in and taking over some touches there. Mm-hmm. Kind of like they were giving some things to Latavius Murray last year, which drove us a little bit crazy.
Oh my God. Yeah, well, yeah, that drove us crazy because I tweeted this a couple weeks ago, and obviously I'll get to your question in a second, but I don't think Bills fans or NFL fans realize that James Cook finished 4th in the NFL in rushing yards last year, right? So he was a top 5 rushing yards, running back. I don't know if he's the top 5 running back. I'm not saying that, but in yards, he was 4th in rushing yards for the Bills. I think James Cook's rushing attempts and I think his rushing output is good. It's kind of where you want it to be. I think where his struggles were, like you kind of mentioned, Lance, and that's the question about James Cook dropping passes, is that, and he did a couple timely ones. Remember, I think the Philly one right by the end zone, that's the one that always comes back. Yeah, he's dropped some timely passes, and I think you said there's a next step to his game. I think there is, and I think it's becoming more of an elite pass catcher. I think if he finished, I don't know about you guys, I would sign up for again if he finished 4th in the NFL in rushing yards. I would 100% sign up for that. That is totally good for where this offense is. That's what he needs to do and all that kind of stuff. Secondly, but if he wants to take his game to a next level, it's catching passes because he has elite speed. He has elite game-breaking speed. He's elite making guys miss. He's super explosive, right? I don't know what I was going with. I was saying juking ability. He's great in open field. It's just he has to be able to secure the ball. So I think, like you said, Lance, his next part of his game or where he can go from this level of running back to this level of running back is catching the ball and be more of an elite pass catcher or more reliable pass catcher for Josh.
He's got to do whatever he needs to get the folks in Buffalo to trust him to play more passing downs too, I think.
Yes. And I also think in Joe Brady's offense, you need a running back that has the ability to catch the ball. The thing is, he has all the tools to be like an Alvin Kamara. Like he has that skill set of that talent of being a running back. And you see it on his rushing side, how good he is and how explosive he is. If he was more reliable catching the ball, one, he would have a couple more touchdowns and his offense would go just take another step. And I think that's kind of where he has to take his game from maybe being a tier or a 1B running back in the league, not on the Bills, in the league to a 1A and to be talked about in the, I'm not saying he's Christian McCaffrey, but talked about in that kind of level.
Yeah, I think a lot for him at this point is just mental. Like you have all of the athletic ability in the world. We've seen what you can do when you get the ball in your hands. It's just a matter of when it's not handed to you in the backfield, getting it in your hands. He dropped, I think it was 4 like sure touchdowns last season that seemed to have carried over into OTAs and minicamp. I'm sure he's been putting in the work on the jugs machine and catching the ball. Like at this point, it's just mental. Like you're a great athlete, dude. Like we know you have all the ability in the world. We know you can catch the football. It's just a matter of doing it. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing because we kind of drafted him to be that catch the ball out of the backfield back. That's what he was at Georgia. He caught the ball out of the backfield. They ran a lot of screens for him. He was kind of the third down back there. So I think that's what we envisioned for him. And now like all of this extra rushing we've gotten is almost like a cherry on top. Like we knew we could run the ball, but we didn't know we could run the ball like this. So yeah, if he can be a little more consistent out of the backfield and become kind of the stereotypical term is a 3-down back where we don't have to take him off the field, then yeah, he for sure can be a top 3, 4, 5 running back in the league this year. And I think it's mental, and he just has to kind of, hone in, keep your eyes on the ball, as they say, and just like, because once he gets it, there's no question what he can do.
Right on. And then I guess if you want to mention, I don't want to spend too much time because we do have quite a few things we're looking to get through, but if he does falter, I mean, do you see a guy like Ray Davis being able to take anything over? Do you see Ty Johnson? Do you see Frank Gore Jr. making the team and having any sort of role? What are your thoughts, Peter, on the rest of the running back stable?
Yeah, well, you and I talked about this, I think, Lance, when after the draft, right, our last show together, we talked about Ray Davis and maybe potentially what his impact could be, right? And I kind of alluded to the fact that he's that change of pace back, right? That Latavius Murray was kind of last year. It's just Latavius Murray was 5 years past his prime, and it didn't work anymore, right? And I think Ty Johnson's that good third back. He kind of can come in, make a play here or there. Kind of what Ty Johnson was last year is what I think Ty Johnson is going to be this year. Ray Davis slides into the Latavius Murray role, change of pace back, kind of like the guy that's going to go run over a guy. But it also has, I think people don't understand, really sneaky speed and is a good pass catcher as well. So I don't know if he takes I think in the NFL in these days, you're always going to have guys get carries taken away unless you're Christian McCaffrey, just to keep a guy fresh. And if Ray Davis is producing, I think he'll take away carries, but I don't know if he's going to take away carries and we're going to be like, well, that's good. Like, I think it's just in a sense of like James Cook deserved to lose carries. I think it's just going to be keep James Cook fresh, keep Ray Davis on the field because he's producing, change of pace back, kind of give it the offense a little bit of a different look. He can also catch the ball out of the backfield, so you don't have to fully change the scheme. And I think maybe keep James Cook a little bit more fresh. And we know they like to do that. They like to keep James Cook a little bit more fresh. I think Ray Davis comes in and is kind of that change of pace back. But if he takes away carries, I don't think it's because James Cook is not doing his job.
Right. Good. On to the receivers, because we got a few to talk about and some other things as well. But do you have any different expectations for Keon Coleman, seeing some of the tape throughout this week? And it's just t-shirt and shorts. It's nothing that he did that was anything overly spectacular, but it's consistent. Nobody's really talking about anything that he isn't doing. It's all very positive about what he's able to do and, the kind of energy he brings and those kind of things. So are your expectations rising, changing in any way, I guess, as the summer rolls on? And I know we're going to see a lot more, and we're going to be able to have those opinions kind of change quite a bit once there's some pads on and we get preseason games, things like that, or maybe some joint practices, which was announced about the potential there that the Bills could do some joint practicing even as soon as this season. So what are your thoughts on the rookie, our first pick, not our first round pick, but our first pick of the draft here, and his trajectory so far? Any change from when he was drafted, or any thoughts, I guess, of now that you've seen a little bit of him?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to come in and be a number one receiver overnight. I hope no one has those expectations for him, because that's just too high. I was very impressed with his going up and getting it ability, like his ability to go up and high point the football, which is kind of somebody that this Bills offense hasn't had. Like Diggs wasn't really that kind of receiver. Gabe Davis wasn't really that aggressive in contested catch situations. Like we didn't have like kind of that jump ball guy that you like, if can run a fade on the goal. I hate fades on the goal line, but you can run a fade on the goal line and throw it up and he's going to go head top somebody. We didn't have that guy. Keon Coleman appears to be that. So I think he's going to do a lot of damage in the red zone this year. And with his big body, and he's a better route runner than I think a lot of people say or think that he is, a big third down target. So I'm looking at Keon Coleman, I don't know, 45, 55, 60 catches, 500-600 yards, something like that. Like to come in and have a solid impact, but not looking for him to be a number one receiver yet. And I don't think that the Bills offense is asking for him to be a number one receiver yet, but come in and make a good impact and be a guy that if, screw it, Keon's down there somewhere, maybe he has a couple, Moss type catches over people's heads this season. So he's a great athlete, runs good routes. So excited to see what he can do, but I don't think anybody's expecting him to be the number one receiver overnight.
Yeah. I don't. You want to go, Lance?
Go ahead, bud.
I don't think, like you said, the offense needs for him to really be the number one receiver, right? I don't think this offense is built around a number one receiver anymore. I don't think that's how it is, right? It's Kincaid, it's Curtis Samuel, it's Khalil Shakir, it's Keon Coleman, it's James Cook, it's MVS, right? Like those are the guys. And if you want to throw anyone else in there, you can. I do think he's going to be productive in his own way, because I think the stat lines for the receivers this year is all going to look very similar. It's going to be like that kind of even share. It's what Keon Coleman can do to maybe have a really good rookie year is that touchdown numbers, right? I think if he becomes, like you just said, you don't like the fades in the red zone or the goal line. I don't either. But if he could become a mismatch in the red zone, which he's supposed to be, one, it draws attention away, it draws attention away from other players that can make an impact. And obviously, you always have to worry about Josh Allen's running ability. But if he becomes a legit red zone target, similar to like an A.J. Brown type of being that legit red zone target, then he might only have maybe 650, 700 yards, right? Or 600. But if he has high touchdown numbers, then he becomes really productive, because at the end of the day, teams that win, you got to score points. And if he scores points for you, I think he's going to be productive. I don't think he comes in and becomes like Justin Jefferson year one, where you're like, okay, this guy's a top 10 receiver, and 2 games in, you're like, holy crap, this guy, who the heck did we just draft, right? Like, I don't think that's him. You never know. Some guys just show up, and game one, he has a touchdown for 120 yards, and all of a sudden we're just like, okay, this guy's elite. And right away, and he's going to be elite for 10 years. I don't know if it's going to be that. It's probably, if I had to say, it would be similar to what Kincaid was rookie year. I'm just hoping for a little bit more touchdown numbers and to use him in the red zone more. That's kind of where I see him at, similar to Kincaid's numbers, but I need him to have maybe 4 to 5 more touchdowns, because if he finishes with 6 to 7 touchdowns and 550, that's a really good rookie year, because at the end of the day, you got to score points. But I agree. Don't expect 1,000 yards or 1,100. If he does, then this offense is the best offense in the league.
Yeah, it will be incredible if he
It would
does
be really incredible.
step up and just come in and be some sort of number one. But I agree. I don't expect him, but I think the way that slow build is going to happen, the way these coaches are going to put him in position to build himself up into what he needs to be for this team, is going to really bode well for the postseason, assuming kind of that the Bills have enough on this roster to do what they need to do to get there. And then when they do get there, I think he'll be polished enough and have enough experience, have enough of a role and enough confidence to go out there and help this team a ton come postseason. And that, one of the things I wanted to mention, there was some talk, I saw some chatter on social media today about roster constructions and, best rosters in the league and things. And I might skip a couple of topics because I want to talk about this now, but the Bills have shown that they can still have success while sustaining injuries to top players. And they were able to still get to the divisional round with a very depleted defense, really, pretty much fully healthy offense. So it makes sense why they were able to get that far, but their defense still played well with clear number one guys out. And teams like Miami can't do that. They don't perform well at the end of the year when they have some key guys injured and things. They aren't able to withstand that and continue to have success. They kind of limped into the playoffs last year and weren't able to kind of close out a division clinching game against the Bills at home. So it was very, I think that shows you that, this, not every team can just plug guys in. That depth actually does matter. And I just wanted to get your comments on kind of the depth of this roster a little bit. And it is a little bit, I don't want to say special, but it's very good. Like they have the depth of this team maybe isn't given enough credit, and it matters because they're having the success they're having because they have this depth.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's a little different about the Bills this year. Last year, they were obviously very deep, especially at the positions where guys got hurt, like the linebacker position. But this year, we have a little bit less top end talent, at least as far as household names. But we're really deep at a lot of positions that really matter, like offensive line, defensive line, wide receiver. They have a lot of options to go to. And in football, it's the ultimate team game, as they say. You need that depth. So, yeah, I think this team is really deep and definitely gives them a leg up going into December, January, knock on wood, hopefully February, just because we have guys we can throw out there who will be difference makers after the first string, second string, guys like that. So, yeah, they're definitely a deep football team. Just the way they were constructed by Brandon Beane. It's, he's one of the best GMs in the league and did a good job of getting its depth set up.
I think this roster is completely slept on across the NFL and across the national media just because they lost a couple guys. And look, you trade Stephon Diggs, I get it. The national media is going to rip that. You trade or you lose Gabe Davis, people are going to talk about that. And then obviously you release Jordan Poyer. Micah Hyde's a free agent retiring. Obviously, you cut Mitch Morse. Trey White gets cut, right? I think those are household names, but as Bills fans and fans that watch the game every week, talk about the Bills, obviously, all that kind of stuff, we know where a lot of those guys were at in their careers, right? And I'm not going to start calling guys out, but we know where Trey White was, right? 2 out of the last 3 years seasoning any injuries. Jordan Poyer kind of showed his age last year. Micah Hyde dealing with that neck injury and obviously not risking football. And I get Gabe Davis wasn't really productive last year. And then obviously the Dick stuff. So there's a lot of caveats there where people don't really want to talk about. And obviously they just want to talk about, oh, you cut this guy who was an all-pro 4 years ago. Well, that's not how really it works, right? The Patriots did that for years. They always cut guys at exactly the right time. And they were successful for other reasons, but that's one of the reasons they were. This roster, like you said, Scott, I think it's maybe not the household names, even though I think they still have some legit household names, of course, and that's not what you were saying, but I think they're deep, right? The D tackle position, I think they're 5 deep at the D tackle position. They're deep at the O-line position. And one thing that can help, and we don't know that this yet, and how these guys will perform is you hit on a couple draft picks, you become even deeper, right? Like Cole Bishop is really good right away. Well, now you have Cole Bishop, Taylor Rapp, and Mike Edwards. Now you're deep at safety. Your starting talent is really good. Awesome. Cedric Van Pran comes in and becomes a legit center and can play. Oh, you're super deep right there. Dwayne Carter comes in and is really productive. You're deep there. Obviously, I can just keep naming people, and you become super deep. I think defensively, they're very good. That starting lineup is a very good defensive lineup, in my opinion. Obviously, the biggest question mark is probably the safeties, and I think that's where kind of McDermott, or maybe the corners as well, but I think McDermott kind of excels at that in developing safeties and turning guys that were Jordan Poyers and Micah Hyde, basically afterthoughts, into all-pro guys and elite guys, and Taylor Rapp could be that. Mike Edwards is that. Mike Edwards wins wherever he goes. I think this roster is good. I think it's really good. I don't know if it's 49ers level, but like the Chiefs roster is not crazy good. It's not great at all. It's good. It's similar to ours, but it's because of 1 or 2 guys or 3 or 4 guys. That's kind of what makes you win a Super Bowl at the end of the day. But I think Bill's roster is good. And especially if you get a couple guys bouncing back, I think Von Millers of the world, all that kind of stuff, it becomes even better.
Right. And if we can hit on Joe Brady becoming offensive coordinator, that makes this team, because that's what the Chiefs really have, right? They have an offensive mastermind as their head coach, and then Spagnuolo as their defense. So they have just very, very smart and good coaching that can put these guys in the positions to succeed and explain things to them in a way that allows them to succeed. So the player there obviously has to be talented, but when you get to the NFL, all these guys have some talent. It's just getting them comfortable and getting them to play the way they need to be successful. So, and it's, sometimes that difficulty on defense is more on the coaching staff more than the players in certain respects. And that's where, Kansas City has a leg up, because they have really smart guys on both sides of the ball. And so far, you saw obviously the Bills have success with Daboll, but since he left, their success has been limited to, not necessarily the offense being the reason they lose any games. I'm not saying that, but you have more of the defensive minded guy being legit and maybe not that offensive mastermind that you might need to get you over the hump. So at this time, we're going to stop and pause for a 1-minute segment from Scott, and then we're going to come back. I'm going to touch on a couple more offensive things before we get to defense. Then we're going to move on to just some defensive notes from the past week here in minicamp, and then I'll have my 1-minute segment, and we'll wrap her up. So, Scott, I guess we'll give you the floor, sir.
Awesome. What's up, everybody? Appreciate everybody tuning in. With the end of minicamp, we have kind of this 6 to 7 week period where there's not any football. And it's summer, which is a very fun season. So I want to ask everybody, what are your plans to kind of bridge this gap until we have football? I like to play golf and I like to go to the lake. So what do some of y'all like to do? There's a lot of sports on. If you're baseball fans, we got baseball, but that's kind of about it. So want to hear from everybody what you like to do and how we kind of try to fast forward through the summer into football season, because summer is a very fun season. So there's a lot of good things for us to get out and do. So Peter, Lance, what are some things you guys are going to be doing until we have football back on our screens again?
Yeah, I'm excited for the summer. I've got a 4-year-old son who is learning to ride bikes and doing all kinds of fun stuff. So really enjoying the family time like that. Also hoping to hit a couple of golf tournaments out there. Got one coming up, the Buffalo Go Classics coming up on July 7th. So if you guys haven't yet head out to Buffalogo's website and sign up for a squat foursome for that Buffalogo Classic. And really just I think this, is for the players too, is really a key time to get the family time in for me.
Yeah, I'm joining Aaron Rodgers on his vacation, so I'll be going out tomorrow. I'll let you guys know what he's doing. And
With
his
the hiatus out there doing the
yeah,
drills.
I'm missing mandatory minicamp to go vacation for a week. What a clown. No. Say it again.
Let us know what you see.
Yeah. Probably see. Jordan Poyer probably will be out there as well. That guy hangs around Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers a lot. No, I'll be golfing. I golf besides working. Golf a lot. I try to 2 or 3 times a week at least. I try my best to get out there. I'm obsessed with it. I broke 90 for the first time a couple weeks ago. It's my 3rd summer golfing. It's actually I say 3rd summer, my 2nd summer actually golfing. The first summer was figuring out how to golf, and now I'm fine-tuning it. So I shot an 86 a couple weeks ago. So that's where my golf game's at. So it's getting better. But yeah, golfing, go to the beach for a couple weekends. Besides Aaron Rodgers, golf, and going to work and a beach, I had nothing else.
So you shot 86. What about on the back 9?
No, I'm not Lance. That's a Lance score for you. Lance, you got to get closer to breaking 100.
I do, yeah. I mean, I'm in the 105 to 112 range, so I'm not too far off. Just a few errant scalds away from with the irons. That's my downfall there.
Wait, what about you, Scott?
Get flush.
My lifetime best, I've shot 88 a couple times. I'm usually somewhere between, low 90s, 90, 95. But I feel like for me, I kind of wish away the summer because it's like I just want football on. But like summer's the best weather we're going to get. It's, our perfect time to go on vacation. So I like to at least make a mental note to like slow down, enjoy this time because football will be here when it's here.
And then your blood pressure will be going through the roof.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. This is our time to, get some R&R before we,
This football season is going to be weird without Peter in the group chat. We'll have to see. I'm sure he'll be hitting me up on the side and things. But
I don't know. I don't know who. I have a couple of other friends to text with that I do Bill stuff, but I got no one to really text with. And the group chat gets a little wild. Biggest thing, stay off Twitter during Bills games. That's the best thing.
Because
good times.
This guy's falling if
every incompletion.
It's just, you know what? And I love Bills season. I love watching the Bills, but sometimes when it's the off season, I can relax a little. I'm always in my mood, and this is the same with you guys. I'm assuming my mood changes every week. If the Bills lose, I'm in a bad mood. If the Bills win, it's the best week ever. It doesn't matter what else is going on in my life outside of like obviously super serious stuff, but like normal week to week stuff. Like Bills lose, I'm a bad person. The Bills win, I'm in a good mood.
Absolutely. All right, let's get a little bit more Bills talk in here. Again this week in minicamp, in the Knox and Connor McGovern presser, Mack Hollins' name came up, and I'm just like, man, he just keeps coming up, and I'm excited. It's like this is the rush for me, Scott, is like, yeah, come on, I want to start seeing these guys kind of in pads and seeing the personnel usage and stuff, because like he is just, everyone is singing his praises based upon all that people are saying. He seems like he's a lock for the 53, and like his role just is ever maybe not expanding because we don't know it yet, but it's fascinating because is he actually going to be more than just a blocking wide receiver? Is he actually going to be catching some balls and having an impact on offense?
Yeah, he had a couple pretty good seasons with the Raiders. He's another big body, similar to Keon Coleman, kind of a receiver the Bills haven't had the past few years. 6'4", 220, can go run the go route and go up over somebody. But I still think his biggest impact will be made not necessarily in the receiving game. He's a special teams ace. He'll be on probably all 6 special teams with his size and how well he can cover the field on punts and kicks and all that good stuff. And he can block kind of like Gabe Davis, but a little bit better of a blocking receiver than him. So, yeah, I think he will definitely have his role carved out in this offense as a receiver, but I'm still just really excited to see what he does in special teams and in blocking But yeah, he's definitely going to be an impactful player on this Bills team and someone that the younger guys can look to. Because like you said, everybody has spoken about how good he looks. He seems to be great in the community so far. He's a veteran. He's been a captain in the past. Maybe he's even named a captain this season. So I think he's the kind of guy that's going to be great for this Bills team and great for some of our younger receivers because we have quite a few of those this year.
The thing with Mack Hollins, right? So when they signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I think that probably will eat into Mack Hollins' kind of receiving options on this team because I think they're very similar. I think Valdez-Scantling's a better pure receiver, has a little bit more speed over the top, right? It will be that other outside guy along with Keon Coleman. But I do think unless they really need like KJ Hamler or like an Andy Isabella on this roster, which we can obviously talk about, I think Mack Hollins is probably as really close to being a lock, right? I think Scott, you kind of alluded to a lot of things, so not to repeat, but special teams, he's going to be really good. He'll be a good blocking receiver. I don't know if he has that many options as a receiver just because there's so many guys I mentioned in front of him, and I think Valdez-Scantling kind of jumps him in that outside big receiver power rankings. Yeah, he's a better receiver than Mack Hollins is at this point, in my opinion. But I think Mack Hollins is a good locker room guy. And we know the Bills love their locker room guys. So if you can sneak him on as like that fifth or sixth guy, I think he's going to be on this roster. I'd be really shocked. It's going to have to take Justin Shorter or Chase Claypool to really shine this summer for him not to make the roster, just because if you have you don't need all those guys. It just becomes way too redundant of just similar type of receivers. One of those two guys is really going to have to shine. I don't really see it coming. I think Mack Hollins is probably a lock for this roster, and I think he makes an impact in different facets. But I think when you guys do your recap after the Bills win the Super Bowl in February, I don't know if Mack Hollins' receivers numbers are going to be like, oh my God, look at Mack Hollins' output, but maybe it's a bit of more of an impact than the eye test or just looking at stats.
Yeah, you guys can definitely stay at my house when you come to the parade. Offers on the table, and if you want to come back and be a guest on our post Super Bowl show, and
you guys should go Bill Buffalo live from the parade.
Oh, 100%, no doubt that's happening. All right, we could talk. Let's mention Shakir did get banged up a little bit. So any thoughts on that? He even said it, it's June, and so he should be good to go by camp. Just give your thoughts quickly on that. I don't have much else to say other than looks like he's going to be back and fine by camp.
I have a question. You guys a little bit more than I do now, but was it anything? Everything I read, it was like no one told you what it was, right? Like it was
lower body, and he walked off, and
but he was at camp. He was at camp the next day, or whatever you want to call it. He was at practice the next day with a sleeve. He was kind of jogging around, kind of walking around, just kind of doing his own thing. Like if the Bills were playing a Super Bowl on Sunday, is he probably playing? Probably, right? That's kind of where I kind of view it. The Bills are not playing a game on Sunday, so he's not going. So I think that's kind of where we're at with the Shakir thing. I don't think there's anything to worry about. Obviously, when you read it, you're like, crap. But when I first read it and someone said he stood on the sideline for a couple minutes and then jogged off, I was like, okay, if it was super serious, one, he's not going to stand on the sideline for a couple minutes, and two, he's not going to jog off. Like if it was like, you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about serious with lower leg and all that kind of stuff, he would have been carted off or helped off. He's fine. I'm assuming he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, he said he should be good to go. Looked a little ginger in the other days on the sideline, but it just reminded me of those like first training camp days. Whenever anybody has any kind of minor injury, you're just refreshing Twitter every 6 seconds. Yep. I remember 2 years ago, like Micah Hyde and Poyer went down in like the same day. And I was just refreshing Twitter, like what, like where's our update? Like, is he going to be okay? So yeah, he should be good, but he's supposed to could be the number one. I put that in air quotes because offense probably won't have a number one receiver this year. But hopefully he's 100% full go by camp, which it seems like he will. But just gives you some PTSD to some injuries in the past.
Also, if it was serious, we would know.
Yeah, that was the other weird thing. They never there was no.
Like I was texting with Ryan Talbot that night. Actually, I asked him. I shot him a text, and I was like, well, any update? He was like, if it's serious, Schefter would have tweeted it. Except it would have been leaked to Schefter if it was serious, and it wasn't serious clearly, so it wasn't like really worth like getting any news out there. So, yeah.
Right on. Yeah, didn't think it was a major thing. Obviously, when you first see it, it's like, geez, here we go. Some injuries, along the linebacker crew to talk about.
Barely
Maybe,
had it.
But yeah, it didn't. That's going to be sensitive, I think, because that really hurt us last year, right as our season ended, and it's kind of one of those things that certainly Bills fans are going to be sensitive to. Last thing on offense, we're going to go through some defensive stuff. Maybe we'll try to go a little quicker so we're not here for 2 hours, but I feel like this is a good topic to go over and something I wanted to get your opinion on. We're not going to have Peter on every week, so some of the things I just wanted to talk about because he maybe hasn't had the opportunity to speak to Bills Mafia on a platform yet about this stuff, and B, we're not going to get his opinion each and every week, so getting his opinion now is when we can do it, and I'd like to do that. There was a comment talking about our topic selection, and it's our show on Fridays that we get to do once a week, and this is what we're talking about. I hope you guys enjoy it. Hit the like button, hit the share, and check out the audio podcast if you miss this episode tomorrow.
Lance, you're a better person than I am, because when we hosted, I would have said something, because I saw that comment like 2 seconds in, and I was like, I really want to say something. It's just not my platform to say something because it's not my show, all that kind of stuff. When I saw that comment, I was like, oh, nice job, buddy. That's what you're doing for Friday night. But whatever.
He wrote a comment. He felt the need to write us a comment.
Well,
that means
he baited you.
So
he baited it because he started with a compliment, a sarcastic, obviously compliment, and then whatever. Anyways, man.
We digress.
June 14th.
12 personnel usage. They talked to Dawson Knox this week about the usage of 12 personnel, his relationship with Dalton Kincaid, and I always kind of veer into the Reggie Gilliam conversation on whether or not Knox could be taking some of his role on offense and what that means for his roster spot. I think they're going to keep him because he's really good on special teams too, and he's just a very good utility guy. So if someone does get banged up, he can kind of fill in at that tight end spot as well. But do you see the 12 personnel usage going up, and especially without a true number one wide receiver here, their best receiving options or their best way to attack a defense might be the way Dawson alluded to it, was get 2 tight ends on the field. Now you have to decide, are you going to put a linebacker on me or on Dalton, or are you going to bring a nickel in and then be lighter in the box so we can run down your throat? And with this offensive line we have that is roaring, Connor McGovern spoke about how he's ready to get the run game going even more this year, and that sort of balance. Just speak to how you feel about that 12 personnel usage, kind of the mismatch we can exploit there, and just your expectation of that offensive balance.
Yeah, I think the Bills have kind of a fun little scenario on their hands, just based off how this wide receiver corps with their tight ends is kind of constructed, right? I think you can do a lot of different things. I don't know, to answer your question, if it's the 12 personnel is going to go up. I think we're going to see it a good amount, though, right? I don't have a percentage, obviously, to give you, but I think it's because it shows the defense, like you kind of just mapped out, Lance, just a different look. And imagine this red zone kind of look with Knox, Kincaid, Keon Coleman, and then plug another receiver on the outside. It could be MVS if you want to go crazy big.
Shakir is going to be out there more than people might expect. And
but
John was saying that in the comments.
Yeah, so plug anyone out there. You can go MVS, another if you want to go just jumbo package, or Samuel or Shakir, right? I think that's a crazy red zone offense to guard. Imagine trying to guard Knox, Kincaid, and Keon Coleman with the speedster of Curtis Samuel or Khalil Shakir on the outside, and then you have Josh Allen and James Cook, right? I think the Bills are going. I think Joe Brady's kind of foaming at the mouth with the personnel he can kind of run. Curtis Samuel inside, Curtis Samuel on the outside, Shakir on the outside, Shakir on the inside. Obviously, Keon Coleman. I think the Bills, something they haven't had in the last couple of years, they're super dynamic in the sense they can do so many different things. That's really exciting for me, and I think it's going to make defensive coordinators on the other side kind of not sleep on a Saturday night before the game just because of how many different packages the Bills can kind of roll out. So yes, 12 personnel, I think we're going to see it. I think it's not going to be the number one thing they use, but I think they're going to be smart with it, especially in red zone, short yardage situations. Short yardage situations, get Knox, Kincaid out there. Both can block pretty well, especially I think Knox is a pretty good blocker. I think Kincaid is as well. And I think you kind of run behind them as well, like Montgomery was kind of alluding to. It's going to be interesting, right? And I think the Bills can do so many different things, and just based off what their personnel kind of shows you.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And I think we'll see a lot of 12 personnel by definition. But that does not mean we're going to have 2 tight ends set on the line. We're going to have Kincaid in the slot. Knox can line up on the slot. James Cook can line up in the slot too, or even outside. He did that last year. So we might have 2 tight ends and a running back on the field, but it's not going to be in your stereotypical 2 tight ends and a running back offense, which, to echo what you said, I think is what's going to make other defensive coordinators so confused and so puzzled on how to defend it. Just because everybody in this Bills offense this year, just about everybody, can line up just about everywhere. So every time we break the huddle, they're not going to necessarily know where guys are, and we're going to make defenses choose. Do we guard Kincaid with a safety or a linebacker? And then does that give someone else a better matchup on the outside? Do they put 8 in the box and then we motion James Cook out into the slot, and then you got 5 receivers you have to try to guard? So it's going to be really interesting to see. And yeah, I think we'll see a lot of 12 personnel, but not in the stereotypical 12 personnel that you're picturing when you think of 2 tight ends on the field.
2 in line, yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it's amazing because I think Josh Allen's going to be able to figure out, those matchups really quickly and get to something. Like if somebody's going to put a linebacker on Kincaid, good luck, because Allen's going to audible to that, to a play that gets Kincaid into a route that he can burn a linebacker on. I think there's no doubt. I mean, even if they play zone, I feel like they're still going to be the middle of the field. Any zone, it's still a middle of the field with linebackers, and they're going to have to figure that out. It's still going to be really, really tough for defenses to defend. And it's just the step that Knox takes this year. Can he stay healthy for the full year? That has a lot of effect on this, like you guys both mentioned, I believe. And does Knox line up in sort of like a fullback position as well sometimes? And that's kind of where I was getting at with the Gilliam thing, is like, does he provide that wing back type of a player that you can use in a flat route or anything like that, but also can come downhill and block in a running scheme? So I think that's going to be fascinating, because even with the personnel on the field, you're not going to know exactly where those folks are going to line up, and you're going to have to adjust your defense accordingly once the ball is set, or once the offense is set, I should say. And then that could put defenses on their heels for sure. So with that, going to defense, this is one we didn't get to last week. The next couple are just things that we wanted to get to last week, didn't have time, and I want to just make sure we give a little bit of mention to these guys because they spoke during the week as well. And Ed Oliver talked about, when he talked to the media, people try to ask him, what are you working on right now? Like, what do you think that you need to do to get better? It's like, I'm not going to tell anybody that. Then they're going to know. And it's like, so I just want, for me, I wanted to ask you guys of like, what do you think that he could improve? I mean, he had a pretty dynamite season last year, and he was pretty stellar in all facets of the game, running and pass defense. I thought maybe can fortify that run defense side of things so that we can keep him on the field more potentially, but that's not really the style of the defense. We like to rotate guys, so it's good to have him, on true running downs, maybe get a breather and whatnot, because look, he had 11.5 sacks, I believe, and just really good on the pass rushing side. We want to make sure that we're accentuating his strengths on the defensive side of the ball, on the pass rushing side of the ball.
Yeah, I think Oliver had a great season last year. I think he kind of took that next step, like you said, but I definitely think he has another gear in him. I think specifically, kind of like you hinted at, getting after the quarterback. I would love to see him, obviously maybe not quite the same level, but kind of like that Aaron Donald type, because he has all of the skills to do so, to be a game wrecker in the rush game, which he already is, but also be a game wrecker in the pass game. So I'm really excited to see him come in next season with Daquan Jones next to him, hopefully for all 17 games, who has been drawing double teams for the past 2 years in Buffalo. So see what he can do when he isn't getting the line shifted his way. Because, yeah, if Ed Oliver can become that game wrecker in the middle of the field that he has the skills to do, everybody else on the defensive line is just going to eat.
Yeah, like after last offseason, remember when Ed Oliver obviously signed that contract extension, and there was a good amount of mixed reviews, right? Lance, you and I talked about it on our show. There was mixed reviews across Bills Mafia. I think we both liked it, but I think across Bills Mafia there was mixed reviews, right? He had obviously his best season to date, and he took that where he was a good defensive tackle, and I think he turned into an elite defensive tackle, right? I think that's the sack numbers, 9.5, 10 sacks. I think right around double digits for sacks for Ed Oliver last year. Finally had those sack numbers where we are like, okay, this is why we drafted him in the top 10. This is why we drafted him. Daquan Jones goes down, and he still produces. Daquan Jones comes back. He is fully healthy this year. Then Ed Oliver is going to a different level again, just because Daquan Jones absorbs so many bodies basically on the offensive line, and he's just that kind of a sponge when it comes to the defensive line, and opens up for Ed Oliver. Obviously, another step, becoming more of a consistent run stopper. I think he's a good run stopper, but just becoming more of a consistent. That's not really his game, but if he wants to take another step, always stopping the run. I'm never going to complain about it if he's stopping the run at an elite rate. But no, he turned into an elite defensive tackle last year, and I think we finally saw Ed Oliver was good. He was good. He wasn't bad. He was never good, but we were always like, we're missing something with Ed Oliver. It's a little too inconsistent. It's not there every week. Maybe the guy next to him isn't great. Maybe he's just not. Maybe he's just not the guy. Well, we kind of saw it last year. He became the guy. He became an elite defensive tackle, one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in the National Football League now. And I think another year, maybe with Daquan Jones, Dwayne Carter kind of maybe slides in maybe a little bit more towards Ed Oliver, but I don't know. I kind of forgot where he projects as, just not talking about the Bills for so long. Lance, you can kind of remind me. And then obviously you have Austin Johnson and Deshaun Williams. But where does Dwayne Carter project more? If he's more of an Ed Oliver, or is he more of a Daquan Jones? He's more of an Ed Oliver.
Yeah, he's going to be more of that 3-tech, and that's a good comment here by Izzy. Kyle Williams, character-wise. Yeah, I mean, I think the guy obviously was a 3-year captain at Duke, pretty prestigious thing from him, and comes in, just humble, just kind of, gives you that dose of humble pie every day, and works hard, and that's kind of Kyle Williams' mantra. You just come in, you outwork everybody, and you don't have to talk about it much, and you show with what you do more than what you say, and that seems to be Dwayne Carter's MO so far. I think. I mean, we haven't really gotten a great look at him yet with just a few practices, so I think he definitely could be. I hope he has as great of a career as Kyle did too, because having that draft pick hit would be, like Peter said, when these draft picks hit, it just makes this team deeper, and it's gonna refresh the cycle and just give this team more and more life and more longevity at this higher level of success that they have. I'm not saying if these guys aren't good, that's necessarily going to be their demise right away, but it definitely helps when you continue to hit on these kind of draft picks. So, good question. Von Miller spoke as well. It looks like he's getting comfortable. Can he get back to a double-digit sack guy? Is that too much to expect this year from Von Miller, Peter? What do you think?
So I tweeted this a couple weeks ago, and I still try to tweet some Bill stuff, and I'm trying to find this. So I tweeted something about Von Miller, right? Laid out his stats. In 2022, he had 8 sacks in 12 games, and then tore his ACL against Detroit, right? And he was having a really good year in 2022. I think, let's say he was probably on pace for maybe 11, 12 sacks, right? Whatever the math is, double-digit sacks. He was on pace for double-digit sacks, right? Through 12 games, he had 5 games left to get to double-digit sacks. Scott, your dog is losing its absolute mind right now about Von
Dude,
Miller.
I know. I'm trying to mute.
Oh, it happens, man. It happens. I've had my computer crash. Lance has had his computer crash. Stuff happens. 2023 season, I wrote in the tweet, a mess. I just left it as a mess because it was an absolute mess. And then I asked the question, if Von Miller finished the season anywhere between 5 and 7 sacks, would you consider that a successful season? Man, oh man, people did not consider that a successful season. Holy cow. Funny enough, had 69 comments on the tweet. And no. Probably not. No. All that kind of stuff. And it just kept going. No, need more. Why is he? And then someone asks, why is last season considered a mess? And I was like, I'm not responding. Just, I don't know how you don't consider that a mess. So to answer your question, I think if I got 7 to 8 sacks from Von Miller, I would be absolutely over the moon. If I got 7 or 8 sacks, I don't know why people don't think that's over the moon. I would be absolutely over the moon if we got 7 or 8 sacks, right? Because you already have Gregory Rousseau and you already have AJ Epinesa, who have had really good years last year. Both did. I think if you got 7 sacks from Von Miller, like if someone told me Von Miller was getting 7 sacks and this amount of pressures, I'm taking it right now and I'm running.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people think that we're going to get 2015 Super Bowl Von Miller.
Like we probably won't even get 2022 Von Miller.
Right. Like, yeah, if he can get 5 to 7 sacks, like that's a win. Like if he can be productive and get pressures and not just be the guy that we saw last season who just runs wide and I guess kept contained, like that's a win. I understand we're paying him a lot of money, but some of that comes with who he is as a leader in the locker room. And when we paid him that money, no one expected him to get a second torn ACL. So that's something new that we're dealing with. So yeah, 5, 6, 7 sacks for Von. I'll sign up for that right now. And also, no brace is big. I'm sure we all saw the pictures. His quads look enormous. So yeah, hopefully he can have some kind of impact this season. And he did start to show some flashes last year. He got a couple pressures in the Chiefs regular season game. In the playoffs, he was getting home. He almost got a sack. I think he did get a sack, but there was a penalty that took it away. So yeah, if we can get 5, 6, 7 sacks from Von, like I'll take that right now and let Groot and let AJ and maybe even Javion Solomon like get some other numbers up. So yeah, I'll take that for sure.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into our next segment about Groot increasing his sacks. I'm just going to say about Von real quick, though, that we were struggling to see him get a tackle in a game at some points last year. I was absolutely sick to my stomach about it because I was like, yeah, this guy's going to come back and be great, and just couldn't have been more wrong. So I'm a little bit reserved this summer of saying, yeah, Von's coming back to some elite status, but I would say I'd be disappointed in 5 to 7. I'm hopeful that he can get more towards that 9 to 10 range because I just think what that would make this defense, having him in that range, would be really scary. So if not, 5 to 7, obviously you're going to sign up for that when you're talking about a guy you were begging to get 1 tackle. So I get it, but I would hope it's going to be at least encroaching on 10, double digits, and we'll see, because the defense will be super effective if that's the case. And that, again, brings us to Groot. He spoke to the media a bit, and I think his biggest area is got to be, increasing those sack numbers and being more effective in the pass rush. It's great to have him in the role of being that run-stopping edge, but it just, where he was picked and things like that, what do you think for this year? I mean, because this is kind of like, do it or what are we getting long? Like, he's gonna kind of be what he is this year. I feel like after this year, that room for growth and that room for improvement kind of goes down, and I think it's more of like, okay, we're just seeing who he is and we're seeing what he is as a player. So what are your thoughts on 2024 to 25 Groot, and can he actually take the step and get that increase in sacks?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for him this year is just staying healthy for a full season. I think every year he's been in the league, the first 3, he's had some kind of ailment. Like last year, it was his foot. He was banged up and wasn't fully healthy and still played well. He had 8 sacks in his second year. Would have wanted to see him build off of that into last year. He didn't. So, yeah, I think this year we'll really start to see what he really is. He's obviously great against the run. He's a great athlete. He's very long. Can he kind of start to get a little more bendy around the edge? Can we see him rush the passer more? I think he's the kind of guy who can have 10, 12, 11 sacks. He definitely has the athleticism and the potential. And this is a big year to see if he can do that. And if he doesn't, I know he picked up his 5th-year option, so he'll be back next year no matter what. But it kind of starts to give us an idea of, hey, do we have a guy we might want to re-sign? Or is he a guy that, after his 5 years, thanks for the memories, you're out of here? So I hope that
he become a trade candidate of does somebody else think they can unlock something out of him, in that 5th year if he doesn't take that
right.
jump.
Yeah, definitely a good point too. Could be after this season, the 5th-year cap number. Someone might have to really like him to take that on. But yeah, I think he can do it. I would love to see 10 sacks, double-digit sacks out of him this season. I think he can do it, but it's a big year for him, not just for the Bills as a team, but for kind of the trajectory of his NFL career.
Yeah, so obviously the Bills picked up his option. So he's here, like you said, this year, and then he's here one more year. So, look, PFF is not end-all, be-all, right? That's not where you always want to look. But PFF rated him as their 13th best edge rusher in the National Football League, which is really good. He was only 1 spot behind Bradley Chubb, 2 spots behind Josh Allen, not the Bills quarterback. Aiden Hutchinson was ranked 8th, right? He was right there with the top of the guys, right? He's not Myles Garrett or TJ Watt. I'm not saying that, but he was good last year. And they also rated him as the 10th best run defender. So we all, like Lance has mentioned probably 80,000 times how good of a run defender Gregory Rousseau is. Like that, I feel like Lance always alluded to that, and I agree. He's a great run defender. He just hasn't been able to fully get home consistently. His pressure rate is good. His pressure rate has gone, or his pressure totals have gone up every single year he's been in the National Football League. It's just, this reminds me of Ed Oliver. This is really similar to Ed Oliver. And is it maybe a rotation issue? Is it just because of they rotate their edge rushers? This year, I don't know if we see as much rotation. After the top 2 guys in Von Miller being the 3rd, there's Javon Solomon, there's DeJuan Smoot, and there's Casey Toolhill. There's not a lot of legit options. I think Greg Rousseau is probably going to be on the field for the most he's ever been in his career if he stays healthy. I don't
know, man. I wouldn't sleep on Smoot or Toolhill. I mean, Toolhill was really effective when he played next to Sweat and Young. So
I'm not sleeping.
When he played in the rotation with them.
I'm not sleeping on him, but I think he needs to be on the field more. I really do, because I think he's really effective and he can stop the run really well. Yeah, he needs to probably get close to double-digit sacks if he plays a fully healthy year, right? 10, 11, 12 sacks. His pressures are there. His PFF grade is there. His run defending grade is there. His total pressures is there. It's just not getting there. He had 41 hurries last year. To put that in perspective, DeMarcus Lawrence had 39 hurries last year. Khalil Mack had 59, so right behind them. TJ Watt, I know he's banged up towards the end of the year, had 47 hurries. Looking at some other guys here. Whoa, man, these guys are good. Yeah, Micah Parsons is pretty good at freaking football, reading his stats. He's not Micah Parsons, right? But he's right there with the top, or right behind the top guys. I think if he gets to 9 or 10 more sacks, it's good. But we know how much the Bills love analytics. He's an analytic player. The pressures, the pressure rate, the hurries, that's all analytics. When you read his stats and it says his win rate is 16% and his pressure rate is 15.7%. Well, his win rate being 16% is pretty good, right? He had a better win rate last year than DeMarcus Lawrence. He had a similar win rate to TJ Watt. TJ Watt was 16.9%, really similar rate to TJ Watt. He had a better win rate than Max Crosby. I think he's right there. It's just the sack numbers aren't there. So he fits the analytics. He fits kind of what the Bills are. So it's just, I think his sack rate's there. But when you kind of deep dive into Gregory Rousseau a little bit more with the analytics, I think he's a better player than I think people give him credit for.
I agree, and I absolutely think he's going to get to that 12 mark this year. If I'm going to make a prediction, I think he gets to
Yeah.
the dozen mark and
Then he's here long term if he gets to 12 this
makes
year.
that legitimate. I think he's got the people in house here to develop him. We're consistently kind of getting guys um, promotions and stuff on our defense, and we have Matt Edwards as assistant defensive line this year, and just went away from me. Who's the who do we got defensive line this year? Marcus
talking about
West. Yeah,
coaches?
Marcus West actually came in, from the assistant position. And excuse me for not remembering that, but Marcus West comes in and brings a lot of good value to this coaching staff. So I think um, with all the pieces around Groot, we have the veterans. Smoot and Tuhill are going to even help Groot probably as well. I think those guys all enhance what we have there. So I'm excited, man. I think that like Izzy mentioned in the comments too, it's Groot and AJ Epinesa as the starters, and then Vaughn's going to be more probably a specialist role, and we'll see how effective he can be at that, and then how much he gets from there. Want to go to the back seven quick and give those guys their due. Start with the linebackers because Terrell Bernard got to speak, and we got a little more insight into his relationship with Bobby Babich too, and his day-to-day approach kind of didn't surprise me, but the way he spoke about that day-to-day approach and just keeping it, athletes have a really good way. And whenever I speak to Stevie Johnson, I get this feeling too. It's just like it's this day-to-day. Their mentality is just impressive to stay in the mindset they need to do to play this game. And he talked about making the calls and playing next to Matt Milano again in certain situations in practice, and I just thought that was a good thing to just speak about. Okay, Bernard and Milano coming back. I mean, this linebacking core is looking really good, especially with the depth added to it, and the rookie Eddie Olafosho as well. So just give your thoughts on Terrell Bernard back with Milano, and kind of if you listen to his presser, if you take away anything from his day-to-day approach that he spoke about and whatnot.
You go ahead, Peter.
Oh, well, okay. I thought you were no, my bad. I phased
You're going
out
first
there.
a lot, so take it away.
Fair enough. That starting pair of Milano and Bernard might be the best pair in the National Football League. And Terrell Bernard is really slept on just because and people on Bill's Twitter, popular guys that work for Bill and Buffalo, Cover One, fanatics tweet about Bernard a lot and say he doesn't get the praise he deserves. And I agree, right? Like just because he's not a household name, people don't want to talk about him. Terrell Bernard was elite last year. Like elite last year. No one, and don't tell me someone saw it coming. No one saw it coming because I don't want to hear it from anybody because the amount of times people on our show, Lance, commented about, well, we don't have a linebacker. They didn't draft a linebacker. How many times you and I talked about before the draft 2 years ago?
We
need
lost
a
our
linebacker.
mind at that pick.
We lost
though.
our mind. We were doing a live draft show.
We already picked that guy.
And we drafted Dorian Williams, who's not really a middle linebacker. And we were like, well, we have Terrell Bernard. Where is he Milano? Like, we have three Milanos. Like, does it make sense? Well, Terrell Bernard turned into an elite middle linebacker. And we saw him get injured in the Pittsburgh game, right? And him be really hindered against Kansas City. Like, really. Did he play in the Kansas City game? Yeah.
He didn't play.
No, he didn't. Did he play or not?
Couldn't go.
No. Okay,
No.
he didn't play.
Yeah,
for some reason,
AJ Klein back from vacation.
That's what it was. For some reason, I thought he played and he was really hindered.
He was really hindered. He was AJ Klein.
Fair enough. But yeah, so we saw what his losses and what him not being at full strength was to this team. And obviously we know how, I don't need to talk about how good Matt Milano is. It's just boring people to death there. But starting two are great. And then I think Dorian Williams takes a second-year leap. I thought Dorian Williams was really good last year in the sense of being super fast, being super elite hitting, just not always in the right spot at the right time, not there yet. You can see kind of all the tools there, and just he wasn't fully there in year one. Balin Spector, people love Balin Spector. If he can stay healthy, he can make the roster. Obviously, the rookie out of Washington's good, and then some depth guys. Nicholas Morrow played a good amount of snaps for the Eagles last year in a playoff team. And then Deion Jones is a solid depth guy as well. Whoever ends up making the roster, not all those guys I mentioned will end up making the roster probably, but whoever makes up the roster, I think the depth is good. Starting with Dorian Williams and then filing in with maybe another rookie or some veteran guys, but that top two pair, who fully healthy, is gonna be so fun to watch.
Yeah,
It does
I
sound
think
like Balin Spector is going to have a little bit of trouble not making it or making it to the 53, and it seems like he's destined a little bit for the practice squad. But sorry, go ahead, Scott.
I was
Yeah,
saying,
he also doesn't stay healthy.
right. He played great when he was for that game and a half, but yeah, I think linebacker might be sneaky our deepest position, especially when you consider we only play two linebackers because our base defense is Taron Johnson and a nickel, and he kind of plays an outside linebacker type position. Like he's not afraid to come up and hit. So our two starters, I agree with you. I said this all last year, and I'll say it again this year. Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano, probably the best two tandem linebackers in the NFL. And the people who disagree just don't watch the tape. So, and especially you added Nicholas Morrow, who wore the green dot for the Eagles last season. The kid out of Washington we drafted, like you mentioned, can come in and just be a great athlete. Dorian Williams, a whole year in the NFL, has all the raw skills. Can he kind of mold the mental side of the game and become more of an NFL linebacker? And then Deion Jones, probably not making the team, but if he does, hey, who knows? Like he's a guy with proven NFL experience. So really excited to see what this linebacking core can do. The only thing I hope is different than last year is that they stay healthy, because last year they just got brutalized as far as the injury bug went. And we got really lucky with Terrell Dodson stepping up and being a very, very serviceable linebacker. So yeah, really excited to see Milano hopefully in his full self. And I think he'll get better as the year goes on, as he gets healthier and healthier. And then a full season of Bernard knowing, hey, I'm the guy. Really excited to see what that looks like. And they're going to be fun to watch. They fly around, and they're going to be a problem for all the teams we play this year.
Yeah, this team absolutely asks its back seven to do a ton and play a hard-nosed style of football. I mean, if you look, these defensive linemen eat up blocks, and then these back seven guys have to come downhill and make a hit on a guy a lot of times. And that's one of the things whenever I talk about that, I always mention Micah Hyde is like, as great as he is, just that style of football doesn't necessarily lend itself to his body anymore. I think it's kind of like, if Micah can come back and his body can withstand that, it'd be great to have him. But at this point, it doesn't look like that might be
Come back as a
possible.
coach.
Or maybe
Assistant
not
coach.
the best decision. But whatever he does decide, I think it's a good, going to be good for him, and then the Bills will be good with that as well. So we can all practice YOLO Fosho. YOLO Fosho. That's how you say Eddie's name. YOLO Fosho. I got to shout out Izzy. He schooled us up on it, so I appreciate it. Name pronunciation's big. Like that. So again, linebacker depth, hopefully not going to be an issue like it was last year, but NFL's crazy, so you never know what's going to happen. Last one on the defense for now, and then I'll do a 1 minute segment, and then we'll get your feelings on my segment, and then start kind of wrapping up and get you out of here. Appreciate everyone staying, approaching an hour and a half now, and greatly appreciate the support, comments, and everyone sticking with us. Smash the like button, share this, and if you're listening on the audio version, we appreciate it. Check it out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. So Rasul Douglas showed up. It was the only real question mark. He talked about the importance of spending time with family, which I mentioned when Scott did his segment, and just seeing the people that are important. He talks about how many birthdays and different things you have to miss as an NFL player, and being able to take that time away when it's voluntary to stay with the family and make sure that all those things are all that time is spent with them as much as possible. And then the interesting thing he said was that he didn't really spend or didn't really talk to Kyrie Elam last season, and that sees him this year and sees him doing some good things. So I just want to kind of get your thoughts on that. I guess I can understand if he's hurt that he might be a little bit away, but as a defensive back, when you're a veteran coming in, you got a young guy like Elam on the team. It did seem kind of surprising to me that the two didn't interact all that much. Again, I don't know exactly all the inner workings of an NFL locker room per se, but I just think that from a outsider perspective, maybe it's like, all right, man, like you're a veteran, this guy's a young guy coming up. Who would have thought that it might have even have been forced on him to talk to Kyrie Elam at some point, but I guess not. So, just give your thoughts. I guess if you want to spend some time on Elam as well, maybe, but just on the importance of, I think Rasul Douglas showing up, one, not having that holdout situation and being able to be kind of free of that for an off season where we haven't had that for a couple of years now.
Yeah, happy that he showed up. I know we spoke about this a little bit last week. He got a restructure this year. He probably wanted an extension going into a contract year, so that could have turned into a holdout type situation. But happy he's there. And then as far as speaking to Elam, when Douglas came over last season, Elam was hurt. Who knows how much he was around. Came back at the very end when everything was kind of already in place. So it's possible they just didn't – like their paths didn't cross that much. So hopefully, because Rasul Douglas is a stud of a football player, hopefully him and Elam can talk in this offseason. They can help them a little bit. But I don't know if it's any kind of red flag or anything that really like puzzles me about last season, just because Elam was hurt and really wasn't in the day-to-day cornerback room necessarily. So I don't think that's anything for us to really worry about. And hopefully that between the two of them and Benford, they can be a solid unit going into this season.
Yeah, the Rasul Douglas not like really crossing paths with Shakir is a little interesting. I'm not going to focus too much on that because, look, everyone do your own thing. Everyone has different personalities. The fact that they're both corners is a little weird. Like it's not like, oh, Rasul Douglas and cool Shakir didn't cross path as much.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, you think they would, but one's a receiver, different meetings, different sides of the ball. The fact that they play the same position was a little interesting, but Scott, to your point, Shakir was injured for most of the year. Rasul comes in halfway through the year. Different dynamic. I get it, right? And I'm not going to really touch on that. People kind of going to do what they want to do in their personal lives there and how they go about it. They're both grown men. They can do what they want, right? But Rasul Douglas showing up is a good thing. I never really look. Did he love the restructure? Probably not. Did he want a contract extension? Probably, yeah. I think he likes being in Buffalo. I think he kind of sees a vision for himself in the future in Buffalo. Don't know if Brandon Beane sees a future of him in Buffalo, but he's a really good corner. He was really productive when we got him to trade deadline. He was the one hindered in that game against Kansas City, right? Or am I just losing? Yeah, okay, thank you. I was like, someone was really hindered in that game.
Yeah, he didn't play against Pittsburgh.
That's what it was. Yes. Okay. And then we saw that impact of him being hindered against Kansas City. Obviously, Pittsburgh was a different situation with Mason Rudolph being the quarterback, but Mahomes is a little different in the divisional round. He's important. Obviously, Christian Bedford's important, but Shakir is as much as important because we need a third corner. And I think if Shakir can be productive, then you have a really good set of corners on this team. But yeah, Rasul Douglas was really good when he came in. The injury was kind of unfortunate for him down the stretch, but I think Rasul Douglas showing up is awesome. I don't know if they give him a contract extension in the summer. I don't know. I think they probably would have already if they see him long term. I don't know if you need to see him long term. I just would probably want him back for at least another year. That's kind of where I envision it. But I really don't see where. I don't know. And it's way too early to get into it. This is a post after season conversation. But what does this cornerback room really look like? Future, right? Shakir would still be under contract. Benford will be under contract after that.
Well, is it still a position of need for this season, though? Like that's a conversation that we've had.
You and I texted about that, right? And
deep. I think that cornerback could be still a need here. Where I don't know if necessarily are we sleeping on the Kyron Brown and Jamarcus Ingrams on this team, or are they able to provide this solid depth, or would a veteran guy that can come in and be CB4 or push Elam for CB3 be a good play here for the Bills? Do they have enough there? That's one of the interesting questions about the corner room right now for me. I guess if you haven't, I don't know that you've necessarily been able to give your thoughts on that, Peter. If you want to just mention, what are your thoughts on the CB? I think you're starting to say that. So your thoughts on CB being the need and who we have. I mean, are the guys that we do have in house right now, in your mind, good enough to provide that depth?
Yes, I'm hesitating, but yes, I think they probably. I would like a fourth corner to be a veteran guy, another veteran guy. I don't know who it is. I haven't fully looked at it. Like I think Patrick Peterson's available on the market. Someone like that. I don't love the fourth guy being Jamarcus Ingram really, or like I guess Kyron Brown. I guess Cam Lewis could kind of slide into that if you got to that situation. I don't want to see that. Daquan Hardy is more of a slot corner and a special teams guy who they drafted. I really like. I talked about that on the show. I really like Daquan Hardy out of Penn State, but he's not an outside corner. He's a slot and punt returner, kick returner. I think they probably could use a guy. Lance and Scott, they're probably going to wait until training camp at this point. There's no really do it when you want to. Maybe the guy's price drops from this million and drops another $1.5 million just because if he wants a contract and you can get him a little cheaper, yeah, I would do that. I think they probably need to get a fourth guy and just another veteran guy. They like Cam Lewis a lot. I don't love Cam Lewis at corner. I think we've seen that too many times and it just doesn't really work. He can play the slot corner. He can't really play on the outside, in my opinion. Future down the road, this is a conversation you guys can have in about 6-7 months, but what they do in free agency with Rasul Douglas and then who they draft. Corners in need next spring, no matter what. Even if they bring back Rasul Douglas, it probably is a need early in the draft as well. Unless Shakir has some sort of crazy breakout year and he turns into like Terrell Bernard 2.0, where you're like, oh, this guy's legit. But outside of that, I think they need another. For this season, they probably it wouldn't hurt me if they use some of that cap space they got from Trey White to bring in a veteran corner.
Yeah, I think if they were to bring in, and I don't think anything's going to be like a splash move, so to say, but if they were to bring in another veteran, it's probably a corner. I was going to mention that Rasul Douglas is getting older. Maybe that's why they didn't extend him, but he's actually a month younger than me, so he is young and still in his prime. So, yeah, if they do bring in a veteran, I think it'll be at corner. I kind of like Jamarcus Ingram. He played pretty well when he was called upon. I know there was a lot of talk that if we were to leave him unprotected, he'd probably get snatched up really quickly. I think this is his best shot to make the roster at that QB4 position. If they don't bring someone else in, I would like to see him get his chance. Just he's kind of paid his dues in the practice squad the last 2 seasons and played serviceably when he's been called up. So, yeah, am I pumped about the corner room going into this season? No. Very confident in the 2 starters, Benford and Douglas, but after that, there's a whole lot of question marks. So if they were to shore up one position group with that kind of free money we got, so to say, on June 1st, corner is probably it.
Right on. Yeah. I don't have a good name out there. Like when we make a signing, we basically have to cut somebody else right now. And we have plenty like of wide receivers and things like that we maybe can, get, cut one guy there. I'm not sure, but it's like, who are you going to add that actually adds value to the roster and really takes the position of another guy? And maybe, there's another corner that, can be signed to the practice squad later that you can cut and add a guy. But that's the other thing is like signing a guy, you actually got to cut somebody too. So that's probably another difficult decision that's in there. So, all right. I'm going to get into my 1-minute segment and then we can fix some audio issues potentially, and we'll wrap up the show. So I appreciate it. All right. This week for me, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the new stadium because there's some rumors or there's a lot of talk going around about the new stadium being overly expensive and that the PSLs and things like that are too high. And right now, from my understanding, being a season ticket holder, is that right now they're going through the club level. And so the club level in a new stadium is going to be a little bit rich because it's the club level and it's a state-of-the-art facility that is being utilized here in Buffalo. And this is necessary because we need to keep this team in Buffalo. And that's my main focus when I'm talking about season tickets. And I know that it stinks that maybe somebody used to be able to afford a club seat at the old stadium that was built in 1973, but no longer can afford that now. But at the same rate, you have to understand it's a state-of-the-art facility and you're getting a club level seat. So once they start getting into the 300s and things like that, where, you can say those are maybe the seats for the common person, those are, I think, going to be a little bit more palatable. And I'm excited. I haven't got my call yet because I sit in 334, row 32 on the 50-yard line. So we'll see, where that section ends up. But just give your thoughts maybe on how you feel about the new stadium. I don't believe anybody's being priced out. It's just a matter of fact of being a right now the club level being the pricing that people are seeing, and I get that's worrisome, but we haven't seen like the 300 level seating and things like that. So give your opinions, guys, if you'd like, on kind of how important it is that this new stadium is being built and being able to keep this team in Buffalo, because that means a lot to me.
Yeah, I'm also in the 300s with my season tickets, so haven't gotten my call yet. But some of the numbers we've seen, really only on social media, seem kind of outrageous. But like you said, it's a new stadium. They have to raise money for it somehow. The only real concern I had about the new stadium is that there's going to be less seats in this one than the old one. And Bills tickets are kind of already at a premium. So we'll see what that leads to down the road. But yeah, I mean, kind of welcome to the 21st century for us in Buffalo. This is something that a lot of other teams deal with. I don't think anybody was okay with us running back the same stadium for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So, it's kind of the price you pay for having a new stadium and maybe having a stadium that draws some events. I saw they're applying to maybe have the draft there. Obviously, Buffalo will never host a Super Bowl, but you get some bigger events and maybe bring some more money into the economy. So, yeah, just kind of the price you pay, and people will find something to complain about with almost anything. So,
And I think the prices are still going to be far less than in
yeah,
other markets. I think you're
Mhm.
still going to have some of the cheaper prices. I know people don't like to hear that, but when I went to LA, I had to pay for a seat with a view that doesn't even really exist in the Bills Stadium, because there's like 5 levels of the Rams, in SoFi, and it's like, I was higher up. I still got 50-yard line, luckily, but I mean, it was still like $450 for a single game ticket. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's LA, that's probably a good deal for LA.
Yeah, look, sorry, I lost you guys for a second. My audio was like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to you guys for 5 minutes for some reason.
I don't
You're
blame
probably
you.
better off for it.
Yeah.
Look, they needed a new stadium, like Scott, like you said, right? Like this old stadium was kind of getting a little bit run down, right? I don't have season tickets. That's not really, I don't have season tickets, so I can't speak on, and I don't want to speak on it because it's a sensitive topic, as people like to make it. I'm not going to give my opinion on something that I don't have. And real, it's going to sound selfish. It doesn't affect me personally, right? Obviously, just that. What affects me personally is when I go to 1, maybe 2 games a year. That's kind of where I usually sit at 1, if I'm lucky, 2 games. How expensive they are, right? And they used to be really cheap when they were bad. But when you have a good team and when you have an elite quarterback, tickets are going to go up. It's just the nature of it. Like Lance said, like you said, Lance, it's not LA market, right? It's not something like that. And it's not, you're not going to sit really, really far away. I think it's they need a new stadium. It's great that they kept them in Buffalo. Obviously, once Pagulas bought the Bills, I always thought they would stay in Buffalo just because they had the Sabres as well. That's kind of where my mindset was always at. But getting a new stadium maybe even adds another layer to that. They needed a new stadium. I kind of like the design of it. Look, if the tickets are somewhat reasonable, I'm going to go. I already have probably the game I'm going to this year, but season tickets, I don't have season tickets, so I don't want to really speak on obviously that aspect because I know it's a touchy topic.
And most of what draws ticket prices now, anyway, is the secondary market and their fees, which is a different.
Oh yeah, that's not the Bills' fault.
Exactly. And like the single game tickets, if you're lucky enough to get them from the Bills website, aren't that bad, and probably still won't be that bad. It's just
the fees are the worst thing. The fees.
Yeah, I bought tickets to the Belmont this past weekend, and the ticket itself was like $40. They ended up being like 72 a person, just with all the fees. Like, it's a different conversation for a different day. But yeah, like that's where they get you.
Yeah, the fees get you.
Well, I appreciate that, guys, and giving the opinion on that. I know it's a touchy subject, but just I saw it on social media recently, and more people, calling the club level some sort of like seat for the common man, and that just kind of irked me a little bit. It's like club level seats in a brand new stadium. That's not a common man type of seat. I'm sorry,
Lance. I missed this part, but can you just quickly recap what's the problem? Because I missed that when I was off air.
Oh, just the PSL fees and the ticket prices right now are being released for club level seats, and they're very high. And then people were upset that the common person might not be able to afford a club level seat in the new stadium. And I just thought to myself, well, I had club level seats when I first started with my season ticket package, and I found out I could not afford even that. So I'm like, dude, I got 300s and I'm where I can afford, and that, you know, it's different for every situation. I get it, but I don't think of a club section as like a commoner section. It's more of a special. There's special amenities you get with it, and takes more to pay for that in my mind. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's a fair statement. I think you don't really need a club level to go to a football game. That's not kind of how I enjoy sporting events. I've been to clubs, I've sat in boxes at Yankee Stadium, I've done it, Knicks games and all that kind of stuff, right? It's special, but I think going to a Bills game, you don't really want to be in a club. Lance, where did you sit last year that you told me you couldn't hear? Was that club level?
That was in the Caesar Sportsbook Lounge
Okay.
thing, the club that's on the sideline there, and you're like behind that
And
glass,
you didn't
and
like it.
there's no, you hear the radio broadcast ahead of you above you, but you can't actually hear anything from the crowd or
Mhm.
any of the sounds of the game, and that was really disappointing. Because
I know
like, dude, I didn't even feel I was like
you
at a
came
football
on
game.
next week and you're like, I didn't like it.
Yeah, no, it was probably and the Giants were in a game they had no business being in as well. So it made the whole night
Stressful.
just really, really stressful and kind of cumbersome. But I did run into Eli Manning in that club, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, all right, with that, appreciate again everyone sticking with us, hour and 40 minutes now. And Peter, thank you for so much
Yeah.
time. We got 2 shows worth out of you basically on one night, so we appreciate that, man. And
Yeah.
good to see you again. Good to do this again. Just tell everyone a little bit about what you got going on, maybe as much as you want to get into, and
Mhm.
just tell everyone where they can find you at, and anything, I guess, anything about what you have going on to get some people headed your way.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Lance. I appreciate you guys having me on. Lance, you always know if I'm around and I'm available. I know it's a Friday night, so it's not always as easy. But if I'm around and I'm available, I'm always game to talk some Bills. I did it for 2 years, just every week, and of course I missed it, of course. But yeah, no. Yeah, so I work I'm currently on NBC Sports, working on college football right now. That's kind of what I'm doing. I have my other podcast, just called Talking Sports Podcast. But just follow me on Twitter. I just type in my first name, Peter DiBiasi, or just DiBiasi Peter on Twitter. So you guys
And
can
you
kind of
guys put
find
it
me.
out there too. You guys have a lot of predictions on that Talking Sports podcast, and you guys
Yeah,
do a lot of
yeah.
fun things. And I always like to chime in, especially when you get stuff wrong. But
Yeah, look, we do a lot of golf. We do some Europeans. We do Euro Cup stuff. We do like for soccer and stuff. We do a lot of stuff. I've had a little bit more. I'm busy, obviously, with working, obviously, and you're a full time job, but I couldn't obviously battle all of those stuff together. But no, yeah. So check me out there. But yeah, you guys keep doing your thing. It's fun to kind of see you guys, and obviously Bill and Buffalo's doing some great things. And obviously, I know it's the off season, but season gets going, it's gonna be even better. So.
yeah, excited. All right. Well, with that, any closing remarks that you have, Scott? Or
No, Peter, thanks for coming on. Always a pleasure. We got a sneaky good weekend of sports, like I alluded to at the beginning. We got the U.S. Open. Scotty Scheffler not looking so great, which kind of opens up the field for everybody. College World Series, which is a bucket list event for me, so that'll be fun to watch. And then hopefully the Mavericks can hang on and win this so we get another day of basketball. So, yeah, great
yeah,
talking Bills with you guys. And Peter, again, thanks so much for joining us.
Of
I
course.
will say that's the worst NHL and NBA both with
Yeah.
sweeps in
Yeah.
the
It's
finals
brutal.
potentially. Just like what is the Western Conference doing in both leagues? That's crazy. But yeah, good night, Bills Mafia. We really appreciate you. And with that, we say